My name is Anthony, and I learned that vindication doesn't always feel like victory. Sometimes it just feels like surviving. Let me tell you what happened to me. I was 55 years old, standing in an empty office on a Friday evening, watching through the window as my coworkers laughed together in the parking lot. They'd all left for happy hour without telling me. I'd received the email about it 3 days earlier. I'd even mentioned it to Linda that morning. She'd smiled and said, "Yeah, maybe I'll go." But when 5:30 came, everyone just vanished, grabbed their coats, shut down their computers, walked out talking about the weekend. Not one person looked back. I stood there for maybe 10 minutes, just watching them gather around Daniel. He was at the center, gesturing with his hands, making everyone laugh. 27 years I'd worked at Caldwell Financial. 27 years of being the reliable one, the one who stayed late, the one who remembered everyone's birthday. And now, I was the one they forgot. The office felt different in that silence. The fluorescent lights hummed louder. Someone's desk phone kept ringing, unanswered. A coffee mug sat abandoned near the printer, still half full. I could see my reflection in the dark computer screen at my temporary desk. The one they'd moved me to after the accusations started. Tucked in the corner, away from the windows, away from everyone else. That's when I realized they'd already decided I was guilty. They were just waiting for the audit to confirm it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand what happened, I need to go back about 8 months. That's when Daniel joined our department. He was 30 years old, fresh from business school, full of energy and new ideas. I was assigned to train him. Standard procedure for senior analysts like me. I'd done it dozens of times over the years. Most of the young people came in thinking they knew everything, then learned pretty quickly that experience matters in finance. The systems we used weren't always intuitive. The clients had specific quirks. There were reasons we did things the way we did them. Daniel was different though. He was smart, I'll give him that. He learned fast, asked good questions, smiled a lot. He called me Tony, even though I'd introduced myself as Anthony. Something about the way he said it felt casual in a way that wasn't quite respectful, but I didn't correct him, didn't want to seem uptight. The first few weeks were fine. I showed him how to run the quarterly reconciliations, how to handle the client accounts, how to navigate the company's ancient accounting software that predated most modern systems but still held all our historical data. He nodded, took notes, thanked me for my patience. Then he started making suggestions. Small ones at first. "Hey Tony, have you thought about using a pivot table for this instead?" Or, "I saw this plugin that could automate what you're doing manually." I explained that the old system didn't always play nice with newer tools, that I'd tried some of those things before and they'd created more problems than they solved. He'd shrugged and say, "Just trying to help." But the suggestions kept coming, and they started happening in meetings. In front of other people, I was talking to Tony about updating our processes. He'd say to our manager, "Jim, there are definitely some efficiencies we could capture." Jim would nod and say, "Great initiative. Daniel, Anthony, what do you think?" And I'd have to explain, again, why certain things worked the way they did. But explaining felt like defending, and defending made me sound resistant to change. I started noticing how people looked at me during those exchanges. Sympathetic smiles, patient nods. The kind of expressions you give someone who doesn't quite get it anymore. Then came the small mistakes. I made them, I'll own that. A decimal point in the wrong place on a report. An email sent to the wrong distribution list. Forgetting to attach a document to a client communication. The kind of errors everyone makes occasionally when you're handling a dozen things at once. But Daniel noticed every single one. "Tony, I think there's a typo in the Morrison account summary," he'd say in the team meeting, voice gentle but loud enough for everyone to hear. "The total shows 3.2 million, but I think you meant 3.23 million. He was always right, always helpful, always making sure everyone knew I'd made another mistake. Jim started reviewing my work before it went out. Didn't ask, just started doing it. "Just want to make sure we're catching everything," he'd say. Like I was a liability that needed management. The other analysts started treating me differently too. Sarah, who used to grab lunch with me every Thursday, suddenly had meetings that ran long. Marcus stopped asking for my input on his accounts. Linda would give me these sad little smiles in the hallway, the kind you give someone you feel sorry for. And Daniel kept helping, offering to take some things off my plate when I seemed overwhelmed. Volunteering to double-check my reconciliations just to be safe. Each offer was a small humiliation wrapped in kindness. I thought about saying something, pushing back. But what would I say? That a younger colleague was being too helpful. That I felt undermined by someone trying to improve processes. I'd sound paranoid, bitter, like an old man threatened by youth and change. So I just worked harder, stayed later, checked everything 3 times. Tried to be invisible while proving I was still valuable. I didn't realize that trying to prove your worth is exactly what makes people think you've lost it. 6 weeks before they forgot me at that happy hour, everything fell apart. It started with a meeting. Emergency department gathering, called by Jim with HR present. The third quarter numbers had come in, and they were bad. Really bad. Our department showed a loss of $340,000 in unreconciled discrepancies. Money that should have been there but wasn't. Transactions that didn't match up. The kind of error that gets people fired. I walked into the conference room and knew immediately something was wrong. Everyone was already seated. The only empty chair was at the far end of the table, isolated. Daniel sat next to Jim, laptop open, looking grave and professional. The HR director, a woman named Patricia, sat across from them with a folder in front of her. The air was thick, heavy. I took my seat and felt 20 pairs of eyes slide away from me. Jim cleared his throat. Thanks for coming, everyone. I know this is unsettling, but we need to address the audit results head-on. He nodded to Daniel. Daniel's been helping me analyze where the breakdowns occurred. Daniel stood up, connected his laptop to the projector. A spreadsheet appeared on the wall. Rows and rows of numbers. Some highlighted in red. I've been tracking the discrepancies back to their source accounts, he said, voice steady and professional. And there's a pattern. He clicked to the next slide, a chart showing error frequency over 6 months. Every single spike corresponded to accounts I supervised. I want to be clear, Daniel continued, this isn't about placing blame on any individual. We're all under pressure. We all make mistakes. But the data shows that the majority of these reconciliation failures originated in processes that haven't been updated in years. He looked directly at me when he said that last part. My mouth went dry. I wanted to say something, to explain that I'd been flagging system issues for months, that the new software integration was causing problems, that I'd documented everything. But my voice came out thin and defensive. I've been reporting the integration errors since April. IT knows about them. And we appreciate that, Anthony, Jim said. But we need to understand why these errors weren't caught earlier, why the processes didn't have built-in checks. I did check, I said. I'd been staying late specifically to double-check everything. Daniel's expression was so sympathetic it made me want to scream. Tony, I know you've been working hard. No one's questioning your effort. We're just looking at whether it might be time to revise some work. Bring in some additional oversight. Additional oversight, corporate speak for we don't trust you anymore. Patricia from HR spoke up. We're bringing in an external auditing firm to do a complete review. It's standard procedure in situations like this. In the meantime, we'll be reassigning some of Anthony's accounts to ensure continuity. She said it like it was for my benefit. Like I should be grateful. Daniel will take interim supervisory responsibility for the Morrison, Chen, and Fitzgerald accounts, Jim added, my 3 biggest clients, the ones I'd managed for over a decade. I looked around the table. Linda was staring at her notepad. Marcus was checking his phone. Sarah wouldn't meet my eyes. Not one person spoke up for me. How long will the audit take? I asked. 6 to 8 weeks, Patricia said. We'll need full access to your files, emails, and work computer. It will set that up this afternoon. They were treating me like a criminal, like someone who'd stolen from the company. And maybe worse than that, they were treating me like someone too incompetent to notice they were being incompetent. The meeting ended. People filed out quickly, avoiding me. Daniel stayed behind, approached me with that same concerned expression. Hey, Tony, I know this is tough. If you need anything, just let me know. Okay. I looked at him, really looked at him. And I saw it for the first time. The calculation behind the sympathy. The satisfaction he was working so hard to hide. He'd orchestrated this. Somehow, he'd set me up. And I had no way to prove it. I'm fine, I said. I'll cooperate with the audit. He nodded, squeezed my shoulder like we were friends, and walked out. That afternoon, IT came to my desk, took my computer, said they needed to preserve the data integrity for the auditors, gave me a loaner laptop with restricted access. My desk got moved too, to the corner, away from my team. Just temporary, Jim said, while we sort things out, but nothing in a corporate office is ever really temporary. The next 2 weeks were the longest of my life. People stopped talking to me except when absolutely necessary. Conversations ended when I walked into the break room. I'd see groups of analysts huddled together, voices low, and I knew they were talking about me. About whether I'd really made those errors. About whether I was losing it, about dementia, maybe, or just age finally catching up. Daniel moved into my old desk, said it was closer to Jim's office, and made sense while he was handling my accounts. He'd wave at me sometimes across the office, friendly and casual, like nothing had changed. I kept working, filed my reports, ran my analyses, documented every single step I took. I knew the audit would clear me. It had to, because I hadn't done anything wrong. But in the meantime, I was invisible. That Friday, the happy hour Friday, I saw the invitation in my email. Team celebration at O'Malley's 5:30 p.m. Hope to see everyone there. I'd responded yes. Linda had mentioned it that morning. I'd assumed we'd all leave together. But when 5:30 came, they just left, grabbed their things, talking about traffic and weekend plans, and walked out. I waited 5 minutes, thinking maybe they were gathering in the lobby. Then 10 minutes. Then I went to the window and saw them all in the parking lot, getting into cars, following each other to the bar. And I understood. I wasn't part of the team anymore. I was the problem they were escaping from for a few hours. I turned off my loaner laptop, picked up my jacket, and walked to my car alone. I drove past O'Malley's on my way home. Through the window, I could see them, packed around a high-top table, laughing. Daniel had his arm around Sarah's shoulders, telling some story that had everyone leaning in. I kept driving. At home, I sat in my kitchen and stared at the dark window over the sink. My reflection looked back at me, tired, old, defeated. I thought about quitting, just sending an email Monday morning saying I was done, taking early retirement, moving away, pretending none of this had ever happened. But I couldn't, because if I quit now, everyone would assume I'd been guilty, that I'd run rather than face the audit results. And I couldn't let that be the last word on 27 years of work. So Monday morning, I went back. And Tuesday and Wednesday, I worked quietly, methodically, documenting everything. Every process, every check, every step. Building a record that would show exactly what I'd been doing and why. The auditors could have it all. 3 months passed. The longest 3 months of my career. I came in early, left late, spoke to almost no one. Daniel got promoted during that time, made junior manager. Jim announced it in a team meeting. Everyone clapped. Daniel made a speech about collaboration and innovation and how grateful he was for the opportunity to lead. I clapped too. What else could I do? Then, on a Tuesday in November, Patricia from HR sent a meeting invitation. Same conference room. Same setup. But this time, there were 2 people I didn't recognize sitting at the table. The external auditors. Jim started the meeting. First, I want to thank everyone for their patience during this process. I know it's been disruptive. The auditing firm has completed their analysis, and they're here to present their findings. The lead auditor, a woman in her 40s named Ms. Chen, stood up, connected her laptop to the projector. After extensive review of all financial processes, system logs, and transaction records, we've identified the source of the discrepancies. She clicked to a technical diagram. The integration between your legacy accounting system and the new client portal created a data synchronization error. When transactions were processed during specific time windows, the systems would record different values. The error was intermittent and difficult to detect without deep system analysis. She looked directly at me. Mr. Anthony's processes were actually what prevented significantly larger losses. His manual reconciliation checks caught many of these errors before they propagated. The discrepancies we found were in transactions that occurred during time windows when he wasn't actively monitoring due to normal time off and scheduled breaks. The room was absolutely silent. In fact, Ms. Chen continued, the minor errors in Mr. Anthony's reports that were flagged during the review period appeared to have been his attempts to manually correct what the system was doing wrong. He was essentially debugging a software problem without realizing it. She clicked to another slide. Our recommendation is a complete system audit and potential rollback of the portal integration until the synchronization issues can be resolved. The financial loss was not due to human error or process failure. It was a technical systems failure. Jim cleared his throat. Anthony, we owe you an apology. This was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. 3 months of isolation, humiliation, and suspicion, and it was a misunderstanding. I didn't feel vindicated. I didn't feel relieved. I just felt tired. Thank you, I said quietly. I appreciate the thorough investigation. Daniel sat perfectly still, his face a neutral mask. Not a trace of guilt or shame. Just professional composure. The meeting ended. People avoided my eyes as they filed out. Not because they thought I was guilty anymore, but because they knew they'd abandoned me when I needed them. Guilt is harder to face than suspicion. Jim pulled me aside. Anthony, I hope you understand we had to follow protocol. The numbers looked bad, and we had to investigate. I understand, I said, because what was the point in fighting about it now? We'd like you to resume your full responsibilities. Effective immediately, I nodded. I'll need my desk back, of course. We'll have it move you today. That afternoon, I sat at my old desk, the one Daniel had been using. He'd cleared out his personal items, but I could smell his cologne on the chair. My computer was returned, my access restored. Everything back to normal. Except nothing was normal. Linda brought me coffee the next morning. I should have said something, she murmured. In that first meeting, I knew something felt wrong. It's okay, I told her, because anger takes energy I didn't have any more. Sarah sent me an email apologizing for being distant. Marcus stopped by my desk to ask if I wanted to grab lunch. Everyone wanted absolution for their silence. They wanted me to tell them it was okay that they'd believed I was incompetent, that they'd isolated me, that they'd erased me from their professional community for 3 months. I gave it to them, because I had to keep working with these people. But I noticed that Daniel's promotion stood. He was still junior manager, still supervising 2 of my old accounts. The audit had cleared me, but it hadn't found any wrongdoing on his part either. He'd just been doing his job, helping to identify process issues, stepping up when leadership asked him to. On paper, he looked like a model employee, and I looked like someone who'd been unfairly suspected and then vindicated, which should have felt like justice. But it just felt like surviving. 2 weeks after the audit results came out, I requested a meeting with Patricia from HR. I sat across from her in her small office, hands folded in my lap, and said the words I'd been rehearsing for days. I'd like to explore early retirement options. She looked surprised. Anthony, you were cleared. Completely, there's no reason for you to. I'm 55, I said. I've been here 27 years. I have the years of service, and I think it's time. Is this because of what happened? Because we can talk about workplace culture, about making sure something like this doesn't happen again? It's not about that. I lied. I'm just ready for the next chapter. She studied me for a long moment. If you're sure, I'm sure. The paperwork took 6 weeks. During that time, I went through the motions. Attended meetings, filed reports, trained my replacement. A young woman fresh out of school, bright and eager, who looked at me with the kind of respect people give someone on their way out. Historical respect, not present-day value. My last day was a Friday in January. Jim organized a small gathering in the conference room. Cake, cheap champagne, a plaque thanking me for my years of service. People made small speeches about my dedication and reliability. Daniel spoke too, talking about how much he'd learned from me, how I'd set a standard of excellence. I smiled and thanked everyone and cut the cake. And then I walked out of Caldwell Financial for the last time, carrying a small box with my personal items. A coffee mug my daughter had given me. A photo of my wife. A pen set from a client I'd had for 15 years, 27 years, and it all fit in a cardboard box. The first few months of retirement were strange. I'd wake up at 6 out of habit, then remember I had nowhere to go. I started projects around the house, fixed the fence, repainted the garage, organized the basement. My wife, Ellen, was happy to have me home but worried about how quiet I'd become. You should call some people from work, she'd suggest. Stay in touch. But I didn't want to stay in touch. I wanted to forget. I took up gardening. Something about working with dirt and plants felt honest in a way office work never had. Things grew, or they didn't. There were no politics in a garden. No one questioned whether you were too old to pull weeds. 5 years passed. Quiet years. Good years. In many ways, my daughter got married. Ellen and I traveled. I did some consulting work, small projects that let me work from home. I learned that I didn't miss corporate life at all. What I'd missed was feeling valued, and I could find that in other places now. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, in my 60th year, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Anthony? Anthony from Caldwell Financial. A woman's voice, young, uncertain. Yes, I said slowly. Who is this? My name is Rebecca. I was Daniel's wife, Daniel Morrison. You trained him. I sat down heavily in my kitchen chair. Okay. I know this is strange, she continued, speaking quickly like she was afraid I'd hang up. But I need to talk to you. In person, if possible. There's something you should know. Something I've been carrying for too long. What is this about? About what happened to you. About the audit. About Daniel. Her voice cracked. Please, I found your number through LinkedIn. I'll come to you, wherever you are. I need you to know the truth. We met at a coffee shop 2 days later. Small place near my house, quiet on weekday afternoons. I got there early, ordered black coffee, sat at a corner table wondering if I was being foolish. What could this woman possibly tell me that would matter now? She walked in right on time. Early 30s, dark hair pulled back, tired eyes. She spotted me immediately, somehow knowing what I'd look like even though we'd never met. Walked over and held out her hand. Thank you for meeting me, she said. I wasn't sure you would. I'm curious, I admitted. How did you even know to contact me? She sat down, clutched her coffee cup with both hands. Daniel talked about you. Not often, and never kindly, but your name came up. Usually when he was complaining about old guard employees or outdated processes. I didn't think much of it at the time. I thought he was just venting about work frustrations. But something changed. She nodded. We got divorced 3 months ago. It was ugly. He fought me on everything. Money, property, custody of our daughter. His lawyer was vicious. I had to get my own lawyer, had to dig through our finances to build my case. She paused. That's when I found the emails. My chest tightened. What emails? Old ones. From before we were married, when Daniel first started at Caldwell. He'd saved them in a personal folder, probably forgot they were there. She pulled out her phone, scrolled through, then turned it to face me. This is from March, 8 months before the audit. I looked at the screen, an email exchanged between Daniel and someone named Jason Winters. The subject line read, "The Tony Problem." I read the first message. "Jay, the old guy they stuck me with is exactly what you said. Stuck in his ways, resistant to anything new. Been running the same processes since the 90s. I'm documenting everything. Every mistake, every outdated method, building a case. The response, perfect. Same playbook as before. Make yourself indispensable while making him look incompetent. Management always sides with efficiency." I looked up at Rebecca, who is Jason Winters, Daniel's old manager, from his previous company. She scrolled to another email. Read this one. It was dated 2 weeks before the audit meeting. "The system integration issues are perfect timing. All the errors are showing up in his accounts. I made sure IT knows he was the last one to manually touch those records. Even if the audit clears him technically, the optics are terrible. He'll be sidelined, and I'll get the promotion." I felt cold. He knew about the system errors. He knew because he used to work in it, Rebecca said, before he went back for his MBA. He understood exactly what was happening with the integration, and he used it. "Why are you showing me this?" Her eyes met mine, and I saw something there. Not just guilt, but anger, raw and burning. "Because he did the same thing to me." "What do you mean?" She took a shaky breath. "During the divorce, I found out he'd been hiding money. Lots of money. He'd opened accounts in his mother's name, transferred funds systematically, made it look like we had less than we did. When I confronted him, he convinced the judge that I was being paranoid. Presented me as unstable, emotional, unable to manage finances. But you had proof. I had suspicions. He was too careful to leave obvious evidence. Just like with you, he's good at that, making people look incompetent while his hands stay clean." She leaned forward, "But I found something. During discovery, my lawyer subpoenaed his work records. Did you know Daniel was fired from Caldwell 2 years ago?" I blinked. "What?" Quietly. "No announcement. They just let him go. I don't know the details, but it was after another audit. Someone must have finally caught on." She pulled out a folder from her bag. "This is everything I found. Emails, the firing documentation I managed to get, records of the accounts he hid. I'm giving it to you because you deserve to know what he did. What he's capable of." I stared at the folder. "Why do you care what happens to me?" "You don't know me." "Because I know what it feels like to be gaslit. To have everyone look at you like you're crazy or incompetent when you know you're not." Her voice hardened. "And because I want to destroy him." The words hung in the air between us. "I can't get him on the financial hiding." She continued. "He was too careful, and the divorce is finalized. But this," she tapped the folder, "this is evidence of a pattern, of deliberately sabotaging colleagues. If someone were to report it to his current employer, to the state financial board, maybe even to Caldwell's legal department, for what he cost them. That's not revenge," I said quietly. "That's just accountability. Call it whatever you want." Rebecca's eyes were hard. "I call it making sure he doesn't do this to someone else. He has a pattern, Anthony. He's done it before. He did it to you, he did it to me, and he'll do it again, unless someone stops him." I looked at the folder. 5 years ago, I would have wanted this. Would have grabbed it and marched straight to a lawyer. But now, "What do you want from me?" I asked. "Permission," she said, "and maybe help. You were there. You lived through what he did. Your testimony would matter." I thought about those 3 months, the isolation, the whispers, the happy hour I wasn't invited to. The look in Daniel's eyes when he squeezed my shoulder and said, "If you need anything." I thought about 27 years of work reduced to a misunderstanding, and I thought about Rebecca, sitting across from me, asking if I wanted justice or just wanted to move on. "I'm 60 years old," I said finally. "I'm retired. I have grandchildren and a garden, and a life that doesn't include Daniel Morrison anymore." Her face fell, "But," I continued, "you're not wrong that he'll do this again. To someone who might not survive it the way I did, so you'll help." I picked up the folder, opened it, saw emails, records, documented evidence of manipulation and sabotage. Saw my own name in several of the messages. Saw the cold calculation of how to destroy someone's reputation while appearing helpful. "I'll talk to a lawyer," I said. "See what can actually be done with this. But Rebecca, I need you to understand something. This might not end the way you want. Corporate investigations are slow, and people protect their own. Daniel might walk away from this too, but he might not," she said, "and that's worth trying." I closed the folder. "Then I'll try." We sat there for a moment, 2 people connected by the damage one man had done. Then Rebecca reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Thank you," she whispered. "For believing me, for not telling me to just let it go. People told you to let it go. Everyone. My family, my friends. They said the divorce was over. I got what I needed. Why make it worse?" She pulled her hand back. But this isn't about the divorce, it's about who he is, what he does, and someone has to say it out loud. I understood that. God, I understood that. We finished our coffee, exchanged contact information, made plans to connect with lawyers and discuss next steps. And when she left, I sat alone in that coffee shop, holding a folder full of evidence, and felt something I hadn't felt in 5 years. Not quite hope, not quite anger, something in between, something like purpose. That night, I showed Ellen the folder. She read through everything silently, her face growing more serious with each page. "What are you going to do?" she asked finally. "I don't know yet," I admitted. "Part of me wants to burn it all and forget I ever saw it. But you won't." "No," I said. "I won't, because of that woman. Rebecca, because of the next person," I said. "The one who doesn't have 5 years to heal before they find out the truth. The one who might not survive what I survived." Ellen nodded slowly. "Then you do what you need to do. I'll support you." The next morning, I called a lawyer, an old colleague from my consulting work who specialized in employment law. Set up a meeting for the following week. Started organizing the evidence, building a timeline, preparing to tell the story I'd tried so hard to forget. Rebecca called every few days. Not pushy, just checking in, sharing additional things she'd found, building her own case against Daniel in parallel. She'd contacted his current employer, filed a formal complaint with their ethics board, started a blog documenting financial manipulation tactics used against women in divorce, turned her anger into action, and slowly, carefully, we built something together. Not a friendship exactly, but an alliance. Two people who'd been made invisible by the same man, refusing to stay quiet anymore. The investigation took 8 months. Daniel's current employer took it seriously once they saw the pattern of behavior. Caldwell Financial's legal team got involved when they realized the original audit might have missed deliberate manipulation. The State Financial Licensing Board opened their own inquiry. During those 8 months, I had to relive everything, give depositions, answer questions, faced lawyers who tried to make it seem like I was just bitter about being investigated. Rebecca went through the same thing, defending her motives, proving she wasn't just a vindictive ex-wife. It was exhausting. Some days I wanted to quit, to tell Rebecca she was on her own, to go back to my garden and my quiet life, but I didn't, because she was right. Someone had to say it out loud. The results came in pieces, never all at once like you see in movies. Daniel was fired from his current position. The licensing board suspended his financial credentials pending further review. Caldwell Financial settled quietly with me for an undisclosed amount, though the money mattered less than the formal acknowledgement that their investigation had been flawed. But Daniel didn't go to prison, didn't face criminal charges. What he'd done was unethical, manipulative, cruel even. But it wasn't illegal in a way prosecutors could build a case around. He'd been too careful for that, so he walked away. Damaged, yes, his career effectively over in finance. His reputation destroyed among people who knew the full story, but walking away nonetheless. Rebecca called me when it was finally over. "Is this what justice feels like?" she asked. "Because it doesn't feel like I thought it would." "No," I said, "it doesn't. Was it worth it?" I thought about that. About the 8 months of stress, the reopened wounds, the nights I couldn't sleep because I was reliving those conference room meetings. I don't know, I admitted. Ask me in a year. But here's what I do know. Sitting here now, a year after everything ended. The vindication I got from the audit didn't heal me. It just cleared my name. The investigation Rebecca and I pursued didn't heal us either. It just created accountability. Healing came from somewhere else. From the garden I tend, from the consulting work I do with people who value my experience, from my granddaughter's laugh and my wife's hand in mine, and the quiet certainty that I don't need Caldwell Financial or anyone there to tell me I have worth. Justice didn't give me that. Time did. And choosing, every single day, to build a life that wasn't defined by what Daniel took from me. Rebecca emails me sometimes. She's doing better. Started her own financial consulting firm helping women navigate divorces. Turned her trauma into expertise. We talk about maybe writing a book together someday, about workplace manipulation and how to fight back. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. But here's what I want you to understand. If you're going through something like this, document everything. Every email, every conversation, every slight, and every pattern. Not because you'll definitely need it, but because you might. And if you do, you'll be glad you have it. Find your people. Rebecca wasn't family or a friend, but she became an ally when I needed one. Sometimes the people who understand you best are the ones who've survived the same kind of damage. Understand that vindication isn't the same as healing. The system might clear your name, might even punish the person who hurt you. But that won't erase what happened. You'll still have to do the work of recovering. And know this, sometimes you win and it doesn't feel like winning. Sometimes the person who hurt you gets away with it, or gets caught but faces consequences that feel inadequate. Sometimes justice is imperfect and slow and incomplete, but surviving is still worth something. Building a life after betrayal is still worth something. Refusing to let someone else's cruelty define your value is still worth something. I'm 61 years old now. I have a garden that produces tomatoes every summer. I have a wife who loves me and a daughter who calls me every Sunday. I have work that I choose, not work I have to do to prove myself. Daniel took 3 months of my career and 5 years of my peace of mind, but he didn't take this. This life I built after, this quiet contentment I found in surviving. And maybe that's the real justice. Not what happened to him, but what happened to me, that I'm still here, still whole, still worth more than he ever let me believe. If you're in the middle of your own version of this story, hold on, document everything. Find your allies, fight if you can, rest when you need to, and remember that the ending might not look like you think it should, but you'll survive it, and what you build after might surprise you. That's what I learned. That survival isn't just living through something, it's choosing what you become on the other side, and I chose this. A quiet life that no one can take from me. A peace that doesn't depend on anyone else's judgment. Daniel Morrison couldn't destroy that. No matter how hard he tried, and in the end, that's the only victory that really matters.
Thank you for staying with us until the very end. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel, like it, and share it. See you soon.